share my screen as well. There you go. Right. Can you guys see that? So first and foremost, we're just going to look at Bitcoin, right? We're going to do it through the eyes of the diagonals, right? Because in moments like this, for me, diagonals are going to be goated. So let's take it bit by bit. First things first. The main reason we've been talking about even a week or two for the last 2 weeks now for why we could get macro pullbacks was the macro fib channel 1.5, right? So this is what we were saying. We were saying that 1.5 has constantly provided us with resistance, and we haven't managed to get above it. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times now, right? So this over time, we actually front ran the 0.5. You're saying, you know, supply was locally so great here that they didn't even let you come to tap the 0.5. But you have now gone back into golden pocket, and that's a nice reaction of the golden pocket. There is the smiley face, right? Obviously, it wasn't that smiley face we were hoping for, but still, nonetheless, that is going to be a smiley face structure down over here should it hold, right? That's just one way to look at it. We know the other way to look at it is there was a lot of golden pocket liquidity rates in this area. This is now taking the fifth channel from here to here, right? The extensions of that, the golden pocket liquidity rates were all the way up over here, right? SFP once, SFP twice, SFP 3 times, right? And then again SFP 4 times. But again, you have now hit what is support, right? If this is lost, front run / liquidity rate of the range extreme is where you're going to go. But if this is not lost, then this could be it to send us higher. We just have to see, right? Number 3, we have this, right? This right here is now, if you take it from this 2 highs to these 2 lows right over here, right? If you take it in terms of that, again, the reason we rejected, we just couldn't close above. This is now your front run of the golden pocket, right? Once, twice, 3 times you hit the front run of the golden pocket, followed by a lower high, right? That's the reason you got the pullback. But now you are above the front run of your range extreme. Anyone who's waiting for that range extreme, remember, is very unlikely to get that perfect entry, right? You either get liquidity rated or you probably get front run. That's the more probable scenario. And for now, we're at the front run area. Even if we spike deeper, this is the area you want to hold in terms of this diagonal. Right, so the reason I'm showing you this, all these different viewpoints, is because 3 different fib channels we've looked at so far. That's 3 different reasons why we should be holding this general area that we're in, right? And of course, the macro currently is that high to that high, that low to that low. In terms of that, what did we do? We are currently struggling against the front run again of the range extreme. Or if we get above this, we're now looking for the liquidity rate, which is going to come off of that period, right? So is the dump done? Depends, right? If we can go and close the dailies above these and treat them as support, then I'd say that's a very nice reaction coming off such, you know, horrible news. Buyers are clearly showing interest in jumping in. Then we could very much just go from here. This was just a fake out, and we just carry on going up, right? If we cannot, and by the time the daily closes, if we turn these to resistance, we could be in for a bit more chop, right? A bit more chop before going higher. I'm still leaning towards go higher by the end of June. For now, I'm still leaning towards go high by the end of June, right? That's because that's what I want to see, right? And there's key levels in the chart that would also still support this thesis. Now, that is just the fib channels. Of course, we know other diagonals is the fib speed resistance fan, right there. So these are the main ones we look at, right? Which is the last completed wave structure. That's the original, and then the macro diagonals. And again, look, even though we are dumping, we are still above that key level we said we need to hold. Right? Yes, you're up below it, but you're also above it in terms of the low. So as long as you keep holding this diagonal, all we need is that one, you know, bullish something to come out, maybe like, you know, a deal we get settled, something like this, that's going to give us a catalyst to actually pump higher, right? So that key diagonal we've been talking about all this time, right? No, this is now once, twice, thrice, 4, 5 times, right? 5 weeks now we've been holding this as support. So if this holds until we genuinely go and turn this entire area to resistance, so then I'm not thinking about 93k, so on and so forth, right? Only when this is very clearly resistance can I think about that, right? So there's that. Then if we incorporate the downtrending, right, from that high to that low, we know there's the downtrending levels also over here. If we incorporate that, again, we can't be surprised that we did reject from where we did. We have been up against this big resistance before. However, in terms of intersections now, right, your targets haven't changed, right? If this area is if sellers come out on top over here, then on the macro, I'll be looking for a pullback towards 93k on the macro. right? Give us a smiley face. This would be now a normal cycle scenario instead of a blow off top. I think we go between, like, 150 to 160 something. If, however, we still get the blow off top scenario, which is what I'm hoping for, then I want to see a reclaim of this, and by the end of the month, I'm not joking, by the end of the month / like first, like, let's say week of July, hit that intersection up over here, right, for that blow off top scenario. Here, maybe even like, one step higher, somewhere in this region, that'd be my blow off top target, somewhere over there. For now, if you like, again, if you could go and close the daily above, right, and then we can go and close the weekly above, so on and so forth, then 2 weeks can get maintained too, then I don't see any reason for why we couldn't still go and hit that target, right? But again, let's see now how the upcoming daily, the upcoming weekly closes. We also know that, actually, we don't need to look at that right now. And then last but not least, of course, there is the macro pitch fan, and the pitch fan, high, low, lower, high. You are once again back at your front run of your range extreme. If you take a look, this was once big support. So if you can hold this, technically you have got diagonal accumulation going on over here. We just cannot lose this as resistance, right? So as long as you're above these diagonal white lines, eventually you are going to be pushing higher. So now, no matter how I look at it before, like we talked about how we've got Satiben's resistance, right? Yeah, and if a pullback happens, it happens, it's whatever. But now that the pullback has happened and reaction is coming in at the support areas, I want to see that be validated, and I want to see buy step in and go, like, reclaim that level, V-shape it, and just send it up, right? For me, max pain is still if we get a blow off top. Why? Because I still think majority of the people are sidelined. I still believe there's no spot holders. Well, majority of the people aren't spot holders, right? And I still think majority of the people are waiting for lower. People are going to have capitulated in these lows. People are going to have, sold off in a panic, and people are going to have got rid of the limit orders because they think price is going to go lower. We all know people like this, right? Best case scenario here, in my opinion, for the market would be just send it up, make them chase higher, and then dump into them after a blow off top, right? That's what I'd hope for. Now, another way to look at it is still what we were talking about yesterday is still valid. Okay, if you look at this in terms of the weekly, right? I'm going to mark this up. This is 104.392. This is 104.409, meaning that's your high. On the weekly, what you'll notice is we do not have any candle body closes above this area. We talked about this yesterday, right? But I just want to point it out today as well. We do not have any candle body closes above this area on the weekly, right? That's implying, again, real quick, what does that imply? That implies sellers are in control over the buyers, supply is greater than demand in this area, right? And that was the case. That was the case. We know, because after that happened, we got that big fat nuke, right? Meaning supply clearly outweighed demand. However, even though we're getting such horrible warnings, even though we're seeing such escalations and we're seeing all this FUD coming out, I would like you to note, have we lost that important bit of price action here? For now, the answer is no. And I say for now because, of course, we could go and lose it by the time the week ends. However, as we speak, that area where sellers were in complete control over the buyers before, right? Supply was clearly greater than demand, is the complete opposite right now. Even as we speak, buyers are clearly in control of the sellers. Demand is clearly greater than supply in this area. And it has yet to be proven otherwise. Right? Because every single time that buyers try to take this above before, we see no candle body closes, meaning anytime you get here, you get smacked straight back down. But now we see the exact opposite. Sellers have tried once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times now, right? 5 weeks in a row, sellers have tried to close below. But have they been successful? The answer is no, right? So as long as we are staying above this weekly, I'm still biasing to the upside, right? If the weekly's lost, we can drop down to the monthly, right? On the monthly, here it is. The highest area, 102.424, 102.424.51, pretty much the same one. Yeah, A2 right there, right? On the monthly now, that red line, let's say, that's where you have no candle body closes above on the monthly. But if you take a look right now, what's happening? There's your breakout. You are currently retesting the area where you haven't had any candle body closes above this area before. You're currently treating that as support. Again, clearly, buyers for now, right? Because obviously if contradicting price action comes on, this will no longer be the case. But as for the data that is on the screen right now, buyers are in control of the sellers, demand is greater than supply. That is bullish, that is not bearish, right? You can keep doing this. 2 months, I'd say right over here, right? Let's make that yellow. 3 months, I'd say right over here. Let's make that blue. And last but not least, 4 months, that's already accounted for by the 2 months. 6 months, that's already accounted by the 3 months. So on the macro now, you can take a look. Any sort of, any bullish consolidation, anything going on above this area is literally telling you that on the higher time frame, we haven't had any candle body closes above here before. Because on the 2 months you can see, right? On the 3 months you can see, on the 4 months you can see it's been supply. But currently we're trying to flip that. And for a blow off top situation, I would not want this to come down here again, right? I wouldn't, because that would be now longer chop, maybe a month more of just going sideways in this particular area, right? Due down and then chop, and then you'd have to reclaim, so on and so forth. Normal cycle scenario in my opinion if you go and consolidate here. But otherwise, as long as we are above this area, like I said, you are still above the area where buyers are in control over the sellers. Okay, buyers are in control of the sellers, which did not used to be the case. It did not used to be the case. Hopefully that makes sense, right? It's a bit nuanced, but I'm trying to explain it to you guys in terms of buyers versus sellers. If you're ever overwhelmed, if you're ever confused, just think about it in terms of buyers versus sellers. We haven't got any candle body closes above this area, the white line on the weekly before, but you are still for 5 weeks straight defending that area for now. So if this week defends, if this 2 week defends, so on and so forth, right? In 9 days time, if it's still above, if this wick gets eaten up, you best believe you're going to get that blow off top scenario, right? We just need that follow through and in this defense to continue. That's it. That's all we need. We know there's a monthly close coming up. We know there's a 6 month close coming up. If the 6 month can close above 104.409, I think that looks amazingly bullish. Right, the only resistance you'd have that is actually key would be the 2024 resistance. 2024 seller zone high, and that daily candle for now looks good. Do we have aggressive selling? I bet you do. It's not showing up yet, but if you go to the 4 hours, there we go. Aggressive selling has been marked here, right? So aggressive selling straight to this area for now is being defended. We can just legit go and look at this. Yes, we rejected off the value area high of May, right? In terms of fixed range volume profile, in terms of the footprint charts, the value area high of the May footprint, the previous month close, we rejected, sure. However, the point of control and the value low was still defended. Right, we still defended it. So key levels are still being respected. Now the weekly candle, of course, does not look good, but again, that daily, that is huge amount of selling pressure coming in, and for now, that is by seller absorption. If this daily candle closes green, that is ridiculous, right? You're saying, look at the discrepancy in volume, right? You have you still have 6 hours left for the day to close. You could have way more volume than this, but if the day closes like this, when you have an overall negative delta, meaning there's more sellers than buyers aggressively selling here, straight into your previous month point of control value area low, and of course we've looked at also the just the key levels, right? If you have that and you're closing like this, you close over value area high tonight, that's going to be insanely bullish. The biggest amount of seller absorption you've seen is going to happen on daily. You've not seen daily seller absorption like this in a while if you look to the left. Not really. You've not seen daily seller absorption of this scale in a while. Maybe here? No. Sort of. This was seller absorption here. But I think the volume over here overtakes what was happening down over there. Right? But you've not seen something like this in a while. So again, if this seller absorption takes place, then your next target is once again going to be up over here. So honestly, what I really hope is, right, and this would be the ideal scenario for me, what I really hope is, even if we flush some more, we don't actually go and breach these lows on the higher time frame, we put some sort of smiley face, we reclaim key levels, right? And what I hope is that anyone who is sidelined, right, and this is completely my wish right now, right, how I want it to play out, even if there's any more chop, make it look like there's aggressive selling, make it look like, a huge spike down, but don't actually do any structural damage, right? And then after that, just swift reclaim, like pretty much V-shape, huge amount of buying coming in, huge wick up, and then just sideline everybody from that point on. Just send it up. That's what I hope for. Just release all the good news at once. Deal struck, war ended, so on and so forth. That'd be amazing. Right? I'm not saying it's gonna end. That's very optimistic of me. But in my opinion, if something like that were to happen, I'd be so happy. Right? For me, that'd be that'd be if I had the power to make the market play out how it would. That's how I'd do it. Just because there's going to be so much fear in this area. There's going to be think about how much liquidations happened yesterday, right? Load of over leveraged people got stopped out. Load of late market longers got stopped out, right? Load of late market entries got stopped out. People who probably were holding and maybe in the green also capitulated. People capitulated their spot bags. People would have closed everything thinking we're going to go lower. World War III is trending on Twitter. I don't see it. World War 3 is trending on Twitter, I just don't see it. I think this goes up. This just feels so much like fear, right? So that's my thoughts on Bitcoin. Key levels being respected, right, in terms of the diagonals at the end of the day. Key levels being respected in terms of your closes, so on and so forth. So if we can close above here, I just want it to go higher. Even during that dump, right? So if you take a look at this in this regard now, then let's go to the index. We're in the index chart. Let's go to the index chart over here. We're in the index chart, okay. One sec. Should be here. Right, there we go. So we had this bullish 5-0 scenario. Obviously, looking at this, you've vastly exceeded the 0.5. But the key thing here now is, right? I'm wondering, was that a 786? Looks like a 786. One sec. Yes, it was. It was a 764786. So here you hit your deep value, right? You hit your deep value, but now you're trying to reclaim your 0.5, right? You've already reclaimed your 0.618. You're trying to reclaim your 0.5. If you reclaim your 0.5, I'm just going to take that as like a very deep bullish 5-0, right? Remember, your last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out. That is a higher low, right? If you were to do this, 5th speed resistance fan from this low, hang on, let me for over one deep retracements. There we go. So from here to here, we've hit the 87886, right? So we've literally hit the deep value levels. You're now above the 764786, right? So get above the golden pocket, so on and so forth. Just send it, right? If you can reclaim the 0.5, you do not turn it to resistance, and you reclaim your 5-0, then I'll be looking for just send it back higher, basically, right? But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe this is just the start of something massive, right? And we're just gonna get right across the board, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it right now. So that is Bitcoin, right? Like I said, today's gonna be very quick, so I'm gonna quickly go through some alts. Let's look at Ethereum. What did Ethereum do? Back within, right? Back within. So this is why I said wait before you take a trade. Right now, if we did hit a key level at this stage, and we saw that because we saw that the key level that we hit was the mid of your you had a shark firstly, of course, right? You had the shark, 1.13 of the shark got hit, but also you hit your historical price range impulse from 2022 mid, right? The impulsive move from 2022, right? You hit the mid of that in terms of historical price range, and that mid rejection, and that's what sent us back down again. Where? Key inflection area, same area as before, right? Again, that is a very, very deep pullback. And now we're currently rejecting off the T2 of this. But again, as long as the key inflection area is held now, we're completely fine. The key inflection area is not held and we turn that to resistance. Then I'll look for moves down towards 2150 to 2080, sort of. That region down there. Right? There. And if you get that, that's where I'm going to be sizing up on ETH next. I've been very, very patient with this one. Because our entries were all the way down over here. Right, we entered when we should have. I'm not going to enter on the challenge account just because, I feel like something's going to happen. I want to see raid something like this, maybe stop out all these people, and then go from there. That'd be huge, right? But we'll see again. Let's take a look. Hype, insanely strong. Honestly, this thing, probably this one of the strongest coins. Again, same thing, the same zone, right? That's why I got this marked in diagonal. The same zone is the one that is still providing you with support. That being that 34382, right? The shallow golden pocket. For if you get above the ABCD 1.272, your next target would be that 1.618. But above that, again, you don't really have much. You could maybe do like a fresh ABCD. But I'll get to that when it happens. But for example, you could do something like this, right? Here's pretty much a 618. There you go. So if you have a 618, we know you're looking for a 1.618, right? The 1.618 will take you to pretty much like 48 something, right? If this is the low anyway. So yeah, hype looks insanely strong, right? Apart from that, let's take a quick look at everything else. So let's have a gander through, right? Aptos, Let's take a look. What do we have? Obviously that's not validated. We have got the Godly, right? That Godly 786 886 we marked ages ago, right? That one there. I said if you get the Godly, you're going to be looking at this area. We have that, right? So now you're in your PRZ for Aptos. You have got the Godly. You haven't hit the deep Godly yet. If you have one more spike down, we get one more event that spikes the market down. Maybe we get something up to the deep Godly. But anything in this region for me is going to be just, that's it. Just bid more. If you're not fully positioned, just bid some more here for spot. That's it. Not financial advice. Just talking to myself, right? But it's very easy to manage risk in this area. Just look at where you are, right? It's low in price. For now, is there any sort of bullish divergence building up? I mean, the last 4-hour candles are clearly bullish. You're holding the 786 off Aptos. Let's take a look. Low. Hang on. What the hell happened here? That's a low in price, and for now, that's a high low in RSI. So if the bottom comes in somewhere here and the RSI begins to curl up, you could have daily bullish divergence here, going into a Gartley, right? So that's nice, very easy. On Aptos, literally, if you don't have anything, if you're sidelined or you want to bid some spot, you would just do so here. You don't have to go all in if you're not comfortable. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how much you should put in. You know how I enter 20-40-40, right? Use the ratios how you will. Right? I'm not going to tell you how you should enter. Do it how the risk management makes sense for you, because everyone's going to have different. But the invalidation, right? If you want a super easy invalidation for this, would be if this turns to resistance, just cut your position until you get back down towards 344, or you reclaim. Right? But personally, I'm just going to be holding my spot here. And now that we've actually hit the Gartley, I'm probably going to add some more as well. If you wanted to swing long Aptos, again, 2-3x, leverage, you can do that here, right? Very easy to manage risk. Enter maybe like a DCA for around this lower box here. And if you close below that, you start closing, just completely disregard everything in this area, then don't have to enter. Just close your position, sorry. But this shark here is no longer the one you're going to be looking for. So what you would be looking for here is this. Okay, if I unlock this, I actually think we've got more we can put down here because of this new one. So this should be now steep enough to do this with. That's literally nearly a 1.13. So now you have a way bigger shark. 886 is going to be all the way up here. 1.13 is going to be all the way up over there. Both are valid. Right, for now, let's just pin it to the 886. Here. If that is the low. Again, you can have a flush down. Even a flush down all the way to here would be fine, right? You can have a 1.618 again, who knows? But ultimately, anywhere, as long as you wig there and it's respected, so on and so forth, it's still going to be valid wave structure. But for now, we have that 1.13, right? So let's see what happens here. Now, the last lower high, that little lower was taken out, but then another lower high has been put in for now, right? So that trend shift there wasn't validated. Aptos on the daily is still on a downtrend for now, locally speaking, right? This is your high, low, lower high, lower, low, lower high, lower, low. And this wasn't a lower high. This was a failed attempt to shift structure. You put another lower high in, right? So this will look much better back above that 34382 sort of area again, basically. However, I need to move that to 1 sec. So for now, that is the low. There we go. However, these are areas where, I'm going to be focusing on spot. I'm not even going to isolate, leverage, anything like this. It's just spot. Right? I'm just going to be adding to my spot bags in the challenge account and my own account, so on and so forth. Easy to manage risk on Aptos. AVAX, let's take a look. Huge wick down. We went back to the deep Gartley, right? So that's a double bottom at that 1.618 for now, basically. So technically this shark structure, I would say would still be valid if it wasn't for that high now, right? So we can do this. If you wanted to, you can do that, right? And we can probably do this now. So on the macro, it's pretty much a 382. In fact, we don't even need to do that. We can just do this. In which case you actually haven't taken that low out, right? But yeah, we can. I'm just going to leave it to that for now to view it. Actually, no, hang on. I cannot do that. What am I doing? I need to do this. Get out of there. here. 993. For a shark, you'd want an extension, so maybe one more flush down again, like I said, right? 1.13, something like this. Otherwise, I'm going to be viewing this as an 886 for now. To a bat. There. We really want this box to hold high, but we can see that on AVAX. If this is lost, then I actually think you go back for a retest down over here, right? Maybe take out some more range lows, and then after that carry on going higher. But you really want this here to hold on AVAX. If I turn this off once, let's do this. Let's take a look. What else do we have? We do have another wave structure on AVAX, right? Like I said, that's possible. We said this bat's only ever going to happen should you go and lose that deep guard the 886, right? Should we now go and turn this red box into resistance, basically, right? This one right over here. We turn this into resistance, then there's a high likelihood we go down and actually hit that 886, right? But again, this is why for my main conviction backs, Aptos, ENA, AVAX, SWI, SEI, Ondo, so on and so forth, I am not in any leverage. I'm only in spot, right? If it goes here, I buy more. Very simple. This is the area where I want to be building my spot back out. Again, both for my main account and my challenge account. And hopefully, that's if we get this 886. We might not get it, right? We might. I don't know. Just set some alerts up, right? If you don't want to limit, definitely set an alert up. In fact, let me do that too. So I'm just going to do it slightly above. Where's the add alert thing? Yeah, there we go. There we go. So now there's an alert on that, right? So should that go, just going to be jumping on, seeing what kind of reaction we get before I bid some more spot here. But that's AVAX. Again, we were looking really, really good here, right? We were looking very, very good to go higher, but you know, it's what it is, right? The bomb's dropped, so did the market. So this is, if I go to AVAX on this particular chart here on the macro, again, remember what we said, that grey box is what matters, right? As long as you're holding this grey box, you do have macro smiley faces being put in. Reclaim, hold, right? Go up. That'd be nice. And don't forget what we are aiming for. It's very easy to get caught up in the fear here, and then you zoom out and you realize, okay, well, all we've had is one tiny red candle, realistically speaking. If you can't handle this tiny red candle, how the hell are you going to handle days like this? You're going to be cheating it back halfway through this green candle. You're not going to let it play out to your targets. Right? If you cannot even handle this, you're nowhere near equipped to handle moves like this whenever they do come. So this is why I preach, number one, learn to find significant levels. Number two, price action analysis at significant levels. Number three, risk managed entries at significant levels. Right? No stress here for now on AVAX. So that's AVAX, that's Aptos. Let's just speed through some more. We've looked at Hype, we looked at ETH. Let's look at Ondo, right? Ondo back down to our smiley face area once again, right? But still holding for now, right? And this is also the reason I told you guys, wait, right? Since we were here, right? So I was saying wait until you like flip that into support if you want to get into Ondo. This is the reason why we'd never flip that into support. You SFP'd your consolidation range highs. This is why it doesn't make sense to buy when you're at resistance, no matter how euphoric you are. Okay. We didn't get the flip. We went back down. So now if you want to buy Ondo, be my guest. Okay. Because over here, we know we're at key value areas again. Your key levels line up over here. For example, this is still PRZ1. Right? Right there. If this is turned to resistance, then we might go back down to PRZ2 again. You're just going to, you're going to cluster it as such, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, so on and so forth, right? But this is still, what we've done is, for example, we had the butterfly 1.272, we had the crab 2.0, so on and so forth. We front ran all of that, right? We've never hit it, so maybe we get one more spike down. We officially hit those, like, reclaim on a lower time frame, smiley face, and then go up, something like this perhaps. I'd love to see that. But that smiley face structure for now is still intact, right, on Ondo. So again, if you want to add spot, you want to add to your spot, be my guest. I've not got any swing longs open on Ondo. Again, for my main conviction bags is spot only, right? Not leverage, because I'm going to give size to my main conviction bags, and then we use leverage to make up for whatever size remaining, to really stretch that whatever is remaining out on other projects you might not have that much conviction on, right? But that is Ondo. Back down to that very, very crucial area. Right. So there's that. Let's take a look next at Say. Back down to the macro shark 886. Say is the other one we said might have a potential, if I'm not mistaken, harmonic, and that harmonic was a bat. So by the looks of things, we might go ahead and get that bat. So yeah, it's gonna be a bat. Again, if you get this bat, I shove more spot into Say, just like I would into AVAX, right? Just deep value areas here, right? ABCD 3.14 once again. That's if we get it. If you hold the macro shark 886, close the daily above, you can look for a scalp to swing long on this next to the next key level even, right? When I say what I'm doing right now, I'm just referencing the challenge account, since that's what I'm running alongside you guys. But back down to that key area, and once again, this key area, if support is held, is going to yield us with initial support, massive radon liquidity, reconfirmation of support. So I honestly hope that that is the case. I don't want this deep 886s to be hit, right? Just how many people do you think are going to be waiting for this now? Loads of people. There's fear in the market, right? People are fearful. So just instead bounce it off the... Is there a 786 here? Let's take a look. I feel like we've marked it before. Where are we gonna go to? Well, the next pivot would just be this one. So what we have is not anything really. Yeah, we're just gonna look at this in terms of the bat then. I swear I had another M shape here. So is it in this? Let me just... Yeah, there we go. We had a yeah, we had an 886 here, right? Yeah, the 0.5 to 886. Yeah, I was thinking, so that internal bat, right? That bat there. That hadn't hit before. We'd front ran the 886 before. Remember, we've officially gone and hit that 886. What's wrong with me? Why did I not see it over here? I was thinking there's definitely something here. I just couldn't find it. Yeah, there we go. That's the one. My 0.5, 0.886. You want that 886 to be validated first and foremost, right? But should that hit again? Do we have any opportunities for bullish divergence to form? The answer is yes, we do. That's on the daily. If this RSI can start curling up here after this, right? Even if we get one more spike down, if it doesn't get below this low, that's going to be daily bullish divergence on the RSI. So we just need these areas to hold now, right? If not, then we get those deeper 886s like I was saying. Just buy. I'm just going to be buying more spot should it get down there. Okay. So that's say. Solana, we have another chart for, so I mean this is still the same chart. You front ran that T2 basically over here, which is from that high to that low of the shark. Front ran the T2, went back down for a type 2, right? But that type 2 for now is still valid, which is really, really nice. Double bottom local, hang on, let me look at Sol in another light. Let's look at it like this. Yeah, back down to that area we've been mentioning, but still not to your yearlies. I don't know if they're going to give you the yearlies. Funny, this was looking so good even before yesterday, right? We were holding above, so on and so forth, and boom. But this is also why for Solana I mentioned don't enter there, because you were just below your yearly resistances, right? So now that we get this pullback, if we can go and raid these, so this has been taken, sort of, this hasn't been taken, this hasn't. One more deeper spike, right? I think one more like quick flush, nothing too deep, just one more quick flush to the downside to just really let that panic, creep in, would be perfect for the market in my opinion. Really make people capitulate, liquidate another 200-300 million from the cryptocurrency market. These hardly ever come in just once, right? At least they come in minimum twos, and then perhaps send it from there. Something like this, perhaps. whether it be a 1.13. I don't hope for a 1.618. I hope we don't get a 1.618. Okay, 1.13, maybe like a 1.414, something like this, or even like a, just like 1.314, right? 1.382, something like this. That'll give us a nice shock back to the upside. 1.13, back up to 193. So should something like this happen, basically, just drawing like a rough wave structure, right? We don't have the makings of a shark quite yet, because I hesitate to call that a liquidity rate. It's 0.021 over, right, to the left. So I hesitate to call that a liquidity rate. But that's all. I would not enter SOL here, right? You're just below your trend line. Like I said, the whole reason if you're going to enter SOL is going to be at a strong reclaim of this trend line. I wouldn't enter it quite over here, either the yearly levels or flip this. Okay, still be very selective with my entries. This is a good entry on SOL for obvious reasons. This isn't. This is not a higher time frame key level. So you want to see either that trend line reclaim or get that flush into the yearly levels. Those are your two entry triggers for Solana. SWI. So this trade setup would have been played out already, so we can get rid of that. The shark nowhere near hit, so we can do. Chill out, mate. Hang on. Let's do this. Do this. That's an 886. So the first thing I see is a butterfly, a potential butterfly for now, as long as of course these lows aren't absolutely wrecked, right? 0.886 would be over here. There we go. 0.786 would be over here. So of course if you have a 786, we know we're looking for a 1.272, right? And if you get past the 1.272, which is going to take you to around $3.99, we get the hop at the 1.414. Which is going to take us to around $4.12. Okay, so basically like $4 to $4.12 if this butterfly plays out. But of course, we can also now look at this in this manner, right? If you do this, then you have a potential bat on your hands. 886 would take you down towards, again, $4. And if you extend it further still, that's still going to be a bat, right? Still a bat. 886 would take you even higher to around $4.13. So if this is the low, then this. If this low gets lower, if we go and breach these lows, then instead of a butterfly slash bats, we're going to be dealing with sharks, right? Very simple. Sharks slash deep crabs, right? So we just wait for this to see, do we validate a low or not? But if you're scared to enter here, doesn't matter. Okay, look, if you want to buy spot for SWI, like I'm still holding my spot SWI, I'll add more if we go lower. Like I said, right, for my high conviction spot bags, I'm just on a relentless buy program right now. If this goes lower, then maybe we hit the 3.14, maybe we hit the 3.618. Again, we want to see bullish divergence with that. Right? If you're scared to buy here, you're not uncertain, but you're pretty much sidelined right now, and you want some exposure, then what you do is you'd again 20/40/48. Right, you take some positions here depending on where you're going to put your invalidation. Are you going to DCA? Are you just going to invalidate if you get below $2.91, right? Depending on that is going to determine your position size and how much you're going to leave the size up with in the future. But you can leave a size up / DCA for if you ever reclaim this key level again. We can see very obviously why. Or we go deeper. Doesn't matter. Entry's up to you. Okay, forget about the entry DCA 1, DCA 2 strategy, right? That is extremely, let's say basic, right? Enter in a way that makes it easy for you to hold, that makes it easy for you to also have some exposure in case we go deeper, or rather have some cash in case we go deeper, or exposure in case we do go from here that you can size up on in the future. That's the best thing you can do for yourself at these prices. There's no overcomplicating it. That's all you need to do. Okay, but SWI, another one. So there's that. What is there? So that's all the main. So let's go through a few more. Focus V2, right? LDO. This was looking so good, and then boom, stayed red candle again because of we can't help what happened, right? But that shark is still valid, right? That shark is still valid for now. Of course, it'd be way cleaner if we do go above and get above that B point, so on and so forth, right? We want to be above that. For example, you can just go ahead and put this box down. We need to be above this. There's your daily seller zone. We need to be above that. If you see this on LDO and you see this putting another lower high in, you know you've got a really nice head short opportunity here. Okay. Are you going to market shorts here? The answer is no. If anyone's thinking yes, hopefully no one's thinking yes. You don't know market short over here. Okay, you've had that big red move down now. If you want to short, just be patient and wait for that. If you go carry yours on going from here, just sit on your hands until you're ready to buy. That's it. But this is not an area where you're now going, be one of these people. Red dot, market shorts are opening up. Soon enough, there's going to be a load of trap traders here, and they're just going to run price against them again. Right? We have had so far, how much is this? This is not an 886. Perhaps we get one more drive down to the 886. You know, you'd have lower time frame ABCDs like this, right? This would be viable on something like the hourly to the 4 hours. Something like that, right? If the 886 hit. Again, ETH beta play for me. LDO, I'm in spot, OP swing long, and then ARB and GMX swing longs, right? ARB and GMX stop loss or break even. OP stop loss or break even. All three hit yesterday. I will be looking for re-entries. Okay, LDO spot, so it's just underwater right now. It's in the red. That's it. OP, nasty nuke, right? That is an absolutely disgusting candle on OP. Again, everything was looking good. It was looking good, and then bop, straight sell off. Can't help it. Let's take a look at. So you've gone past the hop of the butterfly, right? So that much is evidence right over here. Past the hop of the butterfly, looks like you're gonna go and raid these lows on OP. There's nothing else holding you up here now. Down below the diagonal, do we see any sort of lower time frame structure? Bullish divergence, anything signifying life? No, we do not. OP looks absolutely terrible here. Unless they can, you know, undo some of this damage, OP's candle looks absolutely disgusting. Optimism. So I don't know when I'll get the re-entry trigger, right? You know, go and reclaim this into support, something like that would be the re-entry trigger. Otherwise, yeah, this looks absolutely terrible. That is some serious damage that's been done to the chart. You're putting that in, you've rated it, right? So hopefully it is one of those rate to reclaim scenarios that we see. But otherwise, right now OP needs a defib. Yeah, this looks trash. Before I say that with such with chest, let me see. Are we making any, like, you know, structures here, right? No, we're not. We're not making any structures here. That is just intense sell-off, right? Straight up, just an intense sell-off. I hate it when I spot these too late. Hang on. 382. 3.14 would be, yeah, there. So I mean, you just have an ABCD target here, to be honest. Didn't see that before. Yeah, it's hindsight, it's whatever, I don't care, right? Screw OP for now. This does not look good, right? The structure's all gone, right? You know, you had the argument for last level high, that is low got taken out, so on and so forth. You don't even have that argument anymore. So what do we have on OP? Is there any sort of macro M shape that we could potentially look at? Optimism, focus V2. No, but that's resistance. Low here, 1 second. Trend line broken for now, current harmonics, there we go. Okay, so just no reaction at the 886 either, right? Which is something you'd want to see. In fact, the 86 hit here. Okay, so this is something I must have already had marked down then, because that right there was the bat. Oh no, I took it from over there. But you know, in both cases, the macro bats were hit. Just no reaction coming in there now. I think you go and rate that. Right, I think you go and rate that. So that's OP, right? LDO looks better than OP. Arbitrum, still Arbitrum looks better than OP, surprisingly, even though obviously we know it's technically like, you know, already in a downtrend in terms of below your exchange listing low. But locally speaking, Arbitrum looks better than OP. GMX looks better than OP, so I think some rebalancing is in order. I'm not going to be looking at OP again to enter unless it shows some extremely bullish like signs, reclaims of key levels, right? Maybe does something like this, right? Sweep, reclaim, high, low, something like that. If I see something like that, we see, you know, sharks coming in, then sure, then I'll look at OP again for a trade. But until then, this is absolutely cooked. Maybe we get a 1.13 or something, and then higher, but yeah, something like that perhaps. But yeah, I'd want to see some serious strength come in, right? It's below here, it can very easily go down to take these lows out if it wants to now. So that's OP. Okay, Cetus, we are back at the 886. I have opened on the challenge account, right? If you're not there fully, but I have opened on the challenge account a swing long, right? A swing long on Cetus. There we go, right? Swing long on Cetus. And I'm going to be holding this one, right? Because this is now what we were waiting for, right? We're waiting for that type 2. You've hit that. There's your type 2 return. 886 is respected, right? So as long as this 886, this general area is held, Cetus looks fine, right? If we could do something like this, raid the lows, you know, reclaim, something like that, anything. This is where I want Cetus now, the bottoming structure on Cetus to actually come in. You've hit that 886. You've hit your sharks, right? If you do that, X, A, B, C, D, your 886 are the sharks. So Cetus, I'm just now in a low leverage 3x isolated swing long. Okay, we want this to hold now. We are at deep value areas. Let's see how this goes. Very simple on Cetus, right? If you want invalidation, if you want a super tight invalidation, it would be if this zone turned to resistance, right? If this zone turned to resistance, just cut it. And no, this zone turning to resistance means, you know, buyers can't close it off basically, right? You want to come here, you come up, and then, you know, you see that, you know, buyers are attempting to get above, but then you close below, so on and so forth. You see that price action? That's your invalidation trigger for Cetus. Very simple. Deep, to be honest, this one's holding fairly well, you know. Like I really want that 618 on deep. Like I've been saying, if we actually come down to get that 618, 707, 786 is on deep, I will be looking for a position, okay? I just didn't want a position up over here for obvious reasons. You can see why, right? But if you now do get that one, you know, like a sharp flush down towards the 618, 786s, then I will be building a position on deep, because this is very much still a possibility, as long as, of course, we maintain and we respect the, you know, between the 0.382 to the 886. We just can't get below the 886. That's it. The deep needs to come down is the 886. But realistically, even if it doesn't come to the 88, even the 618, right, I'd be happy with, because this will make the ratios align very well up towards this target. So I'd want to see that bottoming structure come in, right? You know, cumulative structure come in, so on and so forth, and then I'd enter on deep. I'm not entering this because this harmonic's valid. Okay, this harmonic's only validated after you actually go and hit the D point, but I'm basically trying to front run a potential wave structure. That's all I'll be trying to do if I'm trying to enter this, right? But I'd want like serious signs of strength coming in once we get to the 618. Just getting to the 618 is not enough, right? So there's that. Anything ENA? Let's take a look. Like I said, that, you know, the macro point of control rejections always just been horrible for ENA, but you're back down now to your area where the deep Carly was before, right? You're back down to your deep Carly area. Looks like a type 2. So if this is your type 2 for the deep Carly, again, we want this to hold, right? That's it. We want this to hold. You're still above your trend line, which is really good for ENA. I'm in spot ENA, I'm not in a swing, right? But as long as you're above this, you know, as long as you're above the trend line, realistically you are looking for moves back higher. If you get below the trend line, then this cluster is next. 0.24 to 23, below that is 20. The key levels are there for a reason. They're volume based key levels, right? Just treat them as such. Ton coin, just sideways. No serious damage has been done to the chart, to be honest, right? The last high low that led to the higher high hasn't been taken out yet. So locally your uptrend is still validated, but it's not going to take much to invalidate that uptrend now, right? If Ton coin analysis has not changed, so if we go here on Ton, there. I mean that's in terms of wave structures, right? If you lose the deep Gartley 886, then we get towards that internal bad, macro bad like 886 area. So you really want, even if you have some sort of pullback here, you want to make sure, right? If you're a Ton holder, that this area holds. Basically, that's it. If this area is turned to resistance, then you get that deeper area. Otherwise, you know, as long as you're holding this area, you see buy strength coming in. This is where you take your bets on Ton. You can literally, like, for spot it's simple, right? Even for spot it's very, very simple. You would bid some here. You would have a DCA for if you wanted to go a bit lower, right? And if you close below, you start turning this to resistance, then you would just cut, layer out, you know, and then you put back in when you get deeper, or you reclaim this level into support, right? But like I said, I know we've had red candles, right, over yesterday, over today, but just bear in mind, look at the weekly. Okay, it looks like all doom and gloom until you realize, like, you know, realistically nothing's happened. We're still consolidating on the weekly. Now the low might not be in on the macro. That's a different story. We're not going to know that until we see that breakdown happening, the continuation, right? Fact of the matter is, there were signs of strength coming in at this area, and if it decides that, you know, it wants to go deeper, then it's what it is. We'll just get deeper Ton, right? But for now, again, even though I know we've had a very, like, you know, macro event play out in the real world, I would have, for many of these charts, just look at the weekly, right? It's still consolidating within the range. On the weekly, hardly anything's actually fully broken down, apart from OP. OP looks absolutely terrible, even on the weekly. Yeah, that is terrible on the weekly for OP. But like, you know, many things are still sort of going sideways, right, on the weekly. Actually, Arbitrum doesn't look that good. It's just this one weekly candle where it looks like, you know, you've got the biggest, like, absorption going on. But is there anything we haven't looked at? Metis, let's take a look. Nothing much is happening with Metis. Nia, I swear to God, I've got different canvases, so I need to keep remembering which one's which on. Metis right over here, right? So this was the entry we gave in, I think it was last stream, and we talked about. So if you took the wide stop loss for this one, right, you'd be in the red right now, underwater on your swing. I am underwater on this swing currently on Metis, right? I'm still in this one because obviously this is one that hadn't really popped since we entered, because I entered this pretty late Metis. So I'm currently underwater in this. I'm willing to let the full thing play out until I see, like, you know, something I can actually pivot around before we get that stop loss. But that's Metis, still within the area, right? So nastily will move down, but again, like, if you hit 1.13s, if you hit extension levels, we could get sharks out of here. And again, if we're gonna get that blow off top scenario, I'm honestly, this is what I hope happens, right? Something like this, to move up, right? Give us macro bullish 5-0s now that the bullish 5-0s we identified before didn't play out, and then just absolutely rinse it higher. That's what I hope happens for the blow off top scenario, even for alts. Make people think, oh yeah, look, we're coming down nicely, and then, you know, they check back in a week to see some weekly bullish engulfing candle just completely undo all the damage this following last few weeks have done, right? Something like that would be amazing. Farcoin, let's look at this one. So Farcoin, 0.5, again, you exceeded that much is very obvious, right? I think you went again to the 0.7 pretty much. Yeah, 0.70 liquidity rate of the golden pocket, basically, right? You went to. You are currently rejecting off the 0.5. Since you're rejecting off the 0.5, we might be getting one more move down. Do we have, let's take a look. Second, I want to be looking at lower time frame wave structure for this. So to show you guys, this will work on any time frame. There you go. you have hit a bearish bat, right? So perhaps, you know, the type 1, type 2 from this pullback would be your final addition. So I have sized up on my Farcoin position, right, during this dump. Now, I've been saying, like, you know, if we get the high, low, or if we get that rather pullback towards these areas on Farcoin, I'll be sizing up. I've been saying this. We got that. I'm going to stick to it. I've been sizing up. Still got some cash left, both for spot and for Farcoin. For spot, I think I'm pretty much going to use it, especially if like strength comes in from these lows. I'm just going to be allocating it to spot. But for leverage, I take things a bit slower, right? Because obviously for leverage, you're at risk of liquidation. So if this is your bet on Farcoin, as you just looked at the lower time frame, so I see a W shape. I put a harmonic down. I'm a simple man. Okay. If I do this, and we're talking about A to D, your T2 is going to be somewhere around, you know, 112 to 111 again, basically. If you get that and buy step in, I'm just going to add even, like, I'm just going to be slowly sizing up on Farcoin, basically. So currently the position size on Farcoin is about 3,500, right? Before it was like just below 2,000, I believe, right? So I've already added 1,000 something in positions coin, in position to the Farcoin long. I will add more, right? I will add more. If you get this pullback, right, to the type 2, and buy step in. If buys don't step in, obviously I'm just going to sell my hands. But yeah, we could get that, you know, pullback, and then we could just send it. Right? That's what I'm hoping happens. Because again, on the higher time frame, even though that locally did look distributive now, looking at it, right? I'm still, like, Coinbase listing has just gone live, right? You know, that could be just a little shakeout, because obviously we see this time and time again. Pump up before listing, dump following listing, right? So on the macro, that scenario we were looking at before, the big smiley face, as long as that holds, right, on Farcoin, again, higher prices is what I'd be looking for. Okay, so Farcoin currently is the biggest swing long, followed by Apu, and then after that is going to be, so three biggest swing longs currently are now going to be Cetus, Farcoin, and Apu, right? Cetus I do have spots on, but with the areas where we are, with Total DeFi looking how it is, I do want to have a swing allocation to it as well, right? Because it's super easy to manage risk. So I'm just doing Cetus in between, like, you know, spreading the position size between spot and the swing long for Cetus, basically. But yeah, that's Farcoin, right? And then if we take a look here now at, hang on one sec, I need to structure this cleaner. Do we have any? I mean, we do, technically speaking, have a shark. No, we don't. We don't. Give me a clean chart. 1 second. So yeah, this is what I had on before. This never was hit. It's still valid, technically speaking, right? That 886 is still valid. So maybe this is something we end up getting after all. However, or in case we do not get that, then do we have anything in terms of a shark or a bat over here? I mean, that's too deep anyway, so no, not really, we don't. In fact, one could argue you've already hit a bat, right? Like that. Yeah. One could argue you've already hit a bat. That's too deep for a bat. Technically should be 1.618 to 2.618. But yeah, the 86 has been hit nonetheless. So yeah, optimistically holding my Farcoin long still. Okay, so that's that. Let's take a look at, what else do we need to look at? We looked at NEAR. TIA, look at this shit. I think we're going to get our next target for TIA in terms of ABCDs. Yeah, very close to the 3.14, right? We were saying, look, TIA looks dog shit. This rejected the 2.618, down towards the 3.14 we go next by the looks of things then. So let's see what happens here for TIA. And again, I'm not asking you guys to set limits, right? Just set your alerts up and see what kind of reaction do you get. You might be able to scalp something off these lows. By no means are you going to whack open some random, like, you know, swing long just because you think it's the low. That'd be a gamble. You want structure to be on your side before you start leveraging to the upside. And apart from that, is there anything else I missed? Right, all these are fine. Like Arrow had a nice pump, and then Arrow had a really nice pump actually. This one was like 20% up the other day, like yesterday, I think. Yesterday or day before. Bearer, has he hit that? Ooh, there we go. See, this is what I mean. The alert didn't go off. I swear I set alert of it for this last time. Bearer is finally at the 886, 1.618 deep crab area. If you wanted to try and merc a spot bag, you would do so here. Okay, look, your invalidation trigger. You could just wait for the daily. You get below, right? You start closing candles below 17982, right? You are out of this bitch. However, if the bottom does start coming in here, and of course your stop loss might get wicked if it's tight, right? Because you might do something like this, chop, put some chop in, but ultimately, like, you know, hold this as the PRZ. This is the area where you're going to be, like, you know, doing that. For spot, I'd say, like, you know, just look for higher time frame losses of levels, higher time frame flips of resistance before you exit, right? But if you're leveraging, keep it tight. But we finally hit that, right? We finally hit this area, 1.618 to the 4-month macro read buy zone mid. If this area holds, then that could be a very nice low area here for bearer now, right? You want structure to be on our side still, sure, but if you see buyers coming in, you see, like, you know, continued seller aggression not being rewarded, so on and so forth, this can yield some really nice results for bearer. Okay, so wait for the daily close at the minimum before you decide to pull any triggers, right? And for now, I wouldn't leverage, I would spot, right? Leveraging when everything's on a downtrend. Hopefully you realize, if you're understanding what, you know, we learn about in our one-on-ones, you guys know that that's something you don't do, right? You don't just randomly, like, leverage long on a downtrend, right? Before you start leverage long in, make sure your trend is shifted to your side, right? But spot now, using 20-40-40, you can at least try to position for a spot play here. You don't have to if you don't want to, by the way, right? It's not like bearer needs to be in your portfolio, but I'm just mentioning something that is currently at a nice area, basically. Let's say that. This is something we had on ages ago, right? We said, okay, you know, eventually we might get that 1.618. It's crazy. Finally got it. Apart from that, we looked at all of this, you know, yeah, we haven't hit that yet. If we can get back above this harmonic is still valid. It'd be more valid though, although it look much better above the B point. So hopefully we do something like this on ICP. Yeah, that's not happening. Delete that. Yeah, Mudeng looks absolutely cooked here. Here's the area I'd be interested on Mudeng. Value area high, point of control, because the value area low, you're currently below. Or rather, you're holding it. If the value area low holds, you're fine, right? But if the value area high holds, you're fine. But if the value area high doesn't hold of this impulse, then yeah, it's cooked. I'd say all the way back down over here. Or perhaps, actually, you have this somewhere into here. Something like this would be nice for Mudeng. If we got it. Now, the question is there any reason why this should go higher, apart from the fact, like, it was a meme that went a bit viral? Well, that would be an 886 somewhere around this area, right? Even if you got something like a 786 for now, let's say. That would still be like a bearish bat to the 886. So these things could be gearing up now for like a bigger wave structure move up, right? Given these downtrends we're going to be, given these sell-offs that's currently happening. So, but that'd be the area of interest down there for Mudeng if this line is lost. Okay. That's from this low. So that for the move up, basically on HDX, that is your value area. But apart from that, there is not much else I want to go. I've gone over pretty much everything. House coin, that's something else. House coin, stop back at break even, right? Sucks. But hey, if we get the deep godly next, you know, we'll just add there, right? Like we talked about. That's why I said, I told you guys minimum, even if no one takes profits, please make sure your stop loss is a break even, right? So if you now get this, that's going to be right, re-look to add house coin. And contextually, it's an even better place. It's a deeper 886, deeper 1.618, and you have structure here, which you didn't have over here. You have structure over here, right? What was once resistance can very easily flip to support, and that's going to be a better long in my opinion anyway. So one more move down before death would be nice on house coin. down to these areas and then go. Is there anything I am missing? Apu, let's take a look at this. Below this exchange wick, above this, I'm still in my Apu long. Pretty much sat at break even right now though for Apu. Yeah, this thing's pretty much sat at break even. So it still looks good in the sense that, you know, you've got your, like I said, macro shark, right? Where's the Apu chart I was using? Jesus, let me find it. Not this one. Okay. There we go. We're still at the 886, right? That's if you ask me, that is a very nice reaction at the type 2 of a deep Gartley. So here's the type 2, because if you do this 4 harmonics from this high to this low, there's your type 1. There's your type 2 return, right? The Apple is still back at break even, but honestly, if the daily closes like this, I might consider, like, you know, adding some to the long, because there's your type 2 now. Type 2 return, if this type 2 return is successful, then we will have a type 2 there's a type 2 retest, sorry, type 2 return, type 2 retest, we'll have a type 2 reaction. No, it's not technically hit the 886. There we go. Literally, that is the 886 from that X. That is perfect 886 on Apu. That is a deep Gartley. There you go. Right. So in fact, what we can now do is you can drag this down over here. That's a fresh harmonic. So you can once again go, take a T1, and then, you know, maybe another type 2 return to a higher low this time, and then go up. Something like that could be possible. Or maybe you have a wick down, come up, smiley face, and then go higher, in creating like a shark wave structure that could take us higher, right? But just understand, Apu is at the 886, officially hit the 886 of the deep Gartley, right? If it drops below this, then you have other wave structures to give us off targets for. But for now, you're at the 886 of your last wave structure. So these targets are still in play for Apu up here. Nice daily reaction for now as well. Popcat mid being lost for now, right? If that mid's turned to resistance, you can look for scalps down towards 25 cents and lower. But if that mid holds and you close above it, then you can again look for that scalp, the swing mindset longs higher, right? Your first target would of course be here, but if you flip that, you'd size up to then try to run it up towards here, so on and so forth. Okay, so we have gone over a lot of vols. Obviously something looks way more hairier than they did a few days ago. OP, that looks absolutely shit right now, but many things still holding. You know, on the macro, many things are still holding, right? Many things are still holding. Type 2 returns are being completed, 886 are being hit. This looks absolutely terrible, I can't lie. OP looks absolutely grim. But on many things, like I said, type 2 returns are being done, and you're getting those back tests of key areas, smiley faces are being put in. So if we get a strong daily close, and we can follow that on to a strong weekly close, so on and so forth, strong 2 weeks over the next 9 days, then I could still see Bitcoin up towards our blow off top target of 120k by the end of the month, right? Because again, for now, I can only go off the data that is in front of me. I'm not talking off emotions, I'm talking off pure logic, right? Or rather pure, just, you know, just TA. That, I will wrap this up by saying again, we are still above, in the face of all these bombs dropping, in the face of all this fear, in the face of 300, 400, 500 million getting liquidated from the crypto space, in the face of all this uncertainty, tariff drama still going on, we have not once closed the candle body below that area where sellers were in complete control before, right? So that's how we started the stream. That's how we're going to end it. Let me quickly check back to the chat. I've not done that today. Sorry about that. I've just been rambling on. Yeah, Kita. That's one I'm watching. I think who told me about Kita? I think it was Rocky. I asked in crypto chat what that was. It's the new hot layer 1 apparently. No, I was really busy today, brother. That's the reason I wanted to do a stream earlier today, but I couldn't find time, so I had to do it now. Let me take a look. You have, okay, volume profile, internal bad. Yeah, nice, bro. Yeah, smiley face to higher. Yeah, smiley's honestly so good. Diagonal and cetus, nice. Okay. Israeli official saying coming Iranian attack. Okay. So we have this. Have to catch the plane. Oh yeah, you're going on holiday, aren't you, Rohan, bro? Have a good trip, man. If you look at the recording later, have a good trip, bro. No problem, bro. It's like this, right? It's like I'm not very active when it's not time to be active, right? But now that it's time to be active, I'm gonna be as active as I can. That's the way I prefer to do things. There's no point being overly active, you know, giving all your attention to the charts when the time to macro position is over. After that, you just scalp when you want. Apart from that, log off for the day, let your spot bags do the work. But right now is the time where, you know, we potentially build and hold those spot bags, right? And for me, I'm already in those spot bags, just holding, looking to find a bit of size up. So yeah, now's the time to be active. Kita Definitely. In fact, I've been charting that on a deck screener, but let's see if Kita has a KTA, right? KTA. I should have a chart already. One sec. You must be telling me I haven't done it. Could have sworn to God I did. Okay, one sec. Let me go to yeah, let's do this. KTA. This is on MEXC. If it's on MEXC, that'd be amazing. USDT, please be on MEXC. Nope. Bro, Blowfin, Poloniex, and Bitmart. I might have to load some money into my Blowfin account just to buy this, or I just buy it on base. Cause this is on base, right? KTA. Might as well do it on base, to be honest. But yeah, KTA, USD. Let's look at the crypto chart, and then Blowfin chart, Poloniex chart, Bitmart chart. I think the deck screener chart's probably going to be older. So I'll also look at the deck screener chart. 37 cents on Blowfin. So I might as well just use the Blowfin account basically instead of the crypto, because I'll be able to get volume data off this. And then Bitmart, is Bitmart like a legit exchange? 33 cents on there. What's that? Oh, yeah, get out of my screen, bro. Right, 0.33, 0.36, 0.36. Is Bitmart like a legit exchange? The wicks look a bit nasty there, can't lie, but oh, I see. Oh, we can take a look at that for you, Will. We'll take a look at that. Shelter room. Stay safe, bro, Leo. 200 missiles. Yeah, 1 billion in long liquidations from crypto, bro. So yeah, send it up, man. So, there's that 200 missiles. Stay safe. Let's see. RWA%. Yeah, RWA% for play. That's it. Yeah. No problem, bro. Grove on base. Okay. I think what I'll do later when I get back home quickly, I'm doing this for my business right now. When I get back home, I'm gonna look at the deck screener chart for this. But 707. Let's take a look. Let's look at this. Let's start 4 hours first, eh? What is those wicks, man? Hang on. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go Blowfin, because if we're not gonna take the extreme, might as well do Blowfin. Gartley, I smell a Gartley. No, I do not smell a Gartley. No, I do smell a godly. That's a deep godly. There we go. Yep, I smell a godly. That right there is a deep godly currently on. Keep it very simple for yourself. If you want to buy some KTA right now, it's very, very easy to manage your risk. You put your stop loss, right? I do not know how much liquidity there is on, even on Blowfin. Those look absolutely scammy in terms of wicks, but that's what you'd be doing. I do not feel confident about that stop loss simply because of those wicks. But it just makes sense on a higher time frame perspective too, right? Because I do not want to be giving you guys stop loss like this at this area. I'd rather you keep it tight and just add if you get lower wicks. But you're retesting previous consolidation highs right now. If I was to go into the weekly, no, okay, 3-day, yeah, no, just daily, okay. I'll just mark out the area where you haven't had any kind of body closes above. That's a very nice way to do things. You flip in the mid of that, right? So here you go. If you enter here, I'll do stop loss below there like this. So you could do this, but 13%. It's up to you guys, right? You could play the range. Like stop loss for me, that would be nothing. But for some people, that might be too wide. So giving stops is always dependent on. What I'll do is I'll give you the invalidation trigger. The invalidation trigger is if you enter now, the invalidation trigger is if you turn that to resistance, you cut. Okay, so do with that information what you want in terms of where you're going to put your hard stop loss. Hard stop loss up to you, but the invalidation trigger, when you're definitely going to cut, you have to be out by the time this flips into resistance, because you do not want to risk this, right? If you get this sort of scenario, you're blessed with this scenario where you get a rate of the lows before you go higher, then I want you guys to be in cash, not watching a portfolio dwindle 40-50%. Okay, so invalidation trigger is get that midline right here, and let me just put the fib down here. 0.9269, right? If that area is turned to resistance, you cut. Okay, but otherwise, very easy area to like manage your risk around here. You have a deep godly, you might get like an impulse off it, even lower time frame impulse. Might be able to catch a trade of this to the upside. T1, T2, so on and so forth, right? So let's say you get T2, that'd be like a 44% pump. So okay, I'm gonna keep the Blowfin chart on. But yeah, that's KTA. And the last thing we're gonna look at is smell like right. And you said ORCL, Oracle, right? ORCL is, let me go to Oracle Corporation. Let's take a look. Oh, damn. Okay. This clearly did not get the memo. Alright, we're gonna go. That's on log. Let's go linear. Bro, come on. 20, 38, 52. Okay, that's on log. Let's go linear. There we go. Now, what the hell am I meant to do with you? You're just on a warpath. Okay. Let's take a look. The most obvious thing to do here to begin with is this. 786, 1.272. Approaching it now. 1.272 is going to be slightly higher. But if I pin that to the 786 itself. There. So there's your first target. 219.5. You're nearly there. You're nearly there. After that, you've got this low. So if I go to the 2 weeks, with this low here, to this high, low here, very close to a 618, but not quite there, and I absolutely hate that. So we're gonna pin this as a 0.5. have the 0.5, you have the 2.0 as a target. So somewhere around 266 basically, right? Somewhere around there, that's what you'd be looking for. For now, I think those two would be enough. Now, why it's going up, I've got no idea. Just put a high low in, your trend's continuing, right? Just aggressive buying being constantly rewarded. Stocks is just a different ballpark compared to crypto, man. Let's look at log ones. Let's turn this off because it's giving me a headache. Okay, so we have we're in the 2 to 3 zone. Approaching the golden pocket for extra confluence, right? You bounced off. Hey, you bounced off the front run of the golden pocket, right? I believe we've done this session, right? Well, we bounced off the front run of the golden pocket. Currently at the 2.618. Wouldn't be surprised if we got as high as the liquidity rate of the golden pocket, but this area I would imagine does give us resistance, so I'd be careful here. I would not buy fresh positions here, basically. Yeah, fresh positions doesn't make sense here. That's what I was thinking, is Oracle making bombs, right? Some claymores on the side. Average $49. Are you chilling, Will? Nice one. Average 49. Hang on. Yeah, you're absolutely chilling. You're up like 5x, or between 4 to 5x. If you're 49. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Well done, bro. Great bag there. Yeah, I'd just keep an alert around these levels. 213. If you get above 213, then like we said, we've got those two targets, right? We have this confluence with the ABCDs, but yeah, as high as 275 I could see, right? Even if you get some sort of chop, liquidity rate max, and then maybe after that like a bigger pullback towards here before you go higher maybe. For now, but those are the key levels you'll be watching, this zone right there between 213 to 275. If you're gonna take some profits, again, not my place to give you financial advice, but if I were to take some profits here, I would not be feeling guilty about taking profits in this zone whatsoever, right? But if this is like some super long-term investment for you, like, you know, you just think this stock's going to go bonkers over like, you know, decades down the line, that's a different thing. Because I know some people hold stocks with that mindset. But if you just bought this as a trade, right, and you're happy to take profits, then honestly, like if you see weakness coming in this area, I'll just do it there. Because now you're at the 2.618 on lock, very serious. Nice, okay. Point support and ASTS are my main bags. Okay. Yeah, right now, the challenge stock account I opened about 7,200 pounds in there. I decided, you know, I had about like 31k I got from the wallets. I decided why spend it when stocks look good. So I felt guilty spending the money, so I was like, okay, instead I'll put it for a stock challenge account instead. So most of the money I found from dusting off those old wallets has just gone to yeah, between crypto and stocks. For now, I've just bought a little bit of Neo, some Lemonade, that's it. Mainly in cash for stocks right now. I need to get used to like the time frame of holding stocks. For stocks, it's different to crypto, right? It definitely is in terms of time frame. So but yeah, so that's that. Hopefully guys, you guys enjoyed this stream. I really wanted to get it done in case you guys were worried about the dump. Wanted to update you guys, right? So like I said, from 21k we'd got up nearly to 31, right? Literally a 10k increase, and then now we're down about like 7-8k again. Still in the green overall, but nowhere near as what we were even 2 days ago, right? It's peak, but it's what it is, right? It's what it is. You know, black swans ain't something you can do with TA. Now, you know, we were lucky enough to have been told slightly beforehand, before the actual news dropped, thanks to Leo, which is the reason I had my hype thingy open, right? My hype hedge short, and hopefully you know, that piece of info saved some of you guys some like unrealized gains as well, basically. But for the challenge account, yeah, that's it. I didn't take any profits on the initial move up, right? Because again, my mindset with the challenge accounts is, let's see, I'm trying to capture with these plays, with the spot, with the swings. I'm trying to capture those big moves. I'm trying to see Farcoin go above $2. I'm trying to see Apu run under the 100 something percent before I really take big profits, right? So just because I'm up $1,000, I'm not thinking about that dollars wise. That's not how you become, like, you know, disciplined. You're thinking about it in terms of purely your trading strategy. I do not care how much that dollar figure is, right? Unless it's life changing, I'm just going to stick to the plan. That's it. And this time, sticking to the plan versus the yes, but it's what it is. We're still green by a couple thousand, right? And hopefully, like, you know, we go back up towards those profits and we go way past. Like, you know, let's see if we can get this challenge account to 6 figures. So yeah, it'd be much easier to grow if I was doing scalp to swings along with it, but I don't want to do that. The last 2-3 challenge accounts I did were all scalp to swing / scalp. So this time I want to challenge myself doing purely just swings and spot, right? To show you don't need to, like, you know, be, you know, pointing 30-40% of your portfolio at 200x on a 3-minute candle to make money. You don't need to do that. You can do it on the higher time frame too. So that's my goal with this one. Therefore, yeah, just sticking with this. But yeah, if anything more eventful happens, guys, I'll stream. No, my pleasure, guys. No problem at all. It's my pleasure. If anything else eventful, crazy happens, I'll stream. I'll have a busy weekend again, so I'll probably be MIA unless something crazy happens. I'll make some time to jump on. But yeah, let's see. If anyone is still fully sidelined and you see some of these alts, like I said, right, again, just my personal opinion, but having some exposure here, especially now that we've had a pullback. If you're sad there thinking, oh, we've pumped, now that we've had a pullback, having some exposure, especially on spot for some of these, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense here. Okay, so yeah, because not even from the fact that, you know, of how high this can go, it's purely of the fact that if we are wrong in these areas, we are not losing much at all. Okay, like you've seen, you know, it's like, you know, 10-15% away from most invalidations, very easily manageable on spot. Yeah, but no problem at all, guys. I'll do that, and yeah, I'll stop this recording here. I'll upload this